Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday. So here we are, 2 weeks until the supposed D-Day, right? The day when Janet Yellen has said the U.S. runs out of money and we can't pay our debt. In other words, the debt default. Okay. Are you prepared for a deep recession, or as some of you guys have said, potentially a depression? Okay. Now, I talked last night about why a depression is a little different because people are trying to compare it to 1929, and that's apples to oranges because the world's a totally different place. We don't all live in big cities. The banks aren't loaning people 90% money on margin, yada, yada, yada. But if Joe, and contrary to what the media will tell you, this is not a Republican-led showdown. This is 100% on Joe Biden. There is nobody else to put blame on at all for this. The Republicans have passed the bill. Okay? Joe just won't sign it. So the Congress is doing what the people want. Joe wants to do what Joe wants. So if we default, this is 100% on Joe Biden. Do not listen to anything else. They can spew all the lies they want, but it ain't true. Okay. Are you prepared for the aftermath of Joe's idiotic decision here? Joe still, 2 weeks out, is refusing to negotiate the debt limit. This is what Moody's Investment Service, predicts will happen if we default. We will see 6 million jobs lost, okay, which will just add more to Joe's wonderful economy. No, Joe has not created 120 million jobs or whatever. That's a flat out lie. We will see the GDP shrink by 4%, okay, which would make Obama's GDP look great, which would make Joe's right now. Our GDP right now is 1.1%. Under Trump, it was around 4. Just saying, that was the magic wand that Trump had. Okay. We will see unemployment bump up to around 7%. Don't get me wrong, that's what Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen want. Okay. Interest rates will go up, the stock market will go down, the dollar will go down, which means gold and silver should go up. Prices and everything will go up. Are you prepared for that? That is what hangs in the balance for one man's poor decision, Joe Biden. Okay. Now, y'all can tell me about he's the puppet for somebody else, and I'm going to completely agree. But the face of the disaster here lies strictly on Joe. Okay. Are you ready for this? And what I'm saying is, you got 2 weeks, guys. All right. This is it, because if something doesn't happen, if Joe doesn't finally cave, this is done. And I know a lot of you say, oh, the Republicans will probably cave and they'll raise the debt limit and yada, yada, yada. Maybe. I just don't necessarily see it this time, okay? The people are behind McCarthy, not Biden, okay? Now I want to give you this. This was last night, and White House Communications Director Ben LaBolt was on MSNBC, and he was adamant that Joe is still not going to negotiate over the debt limit. Okay, if you don't negotiate, therefore you are trying to dictate. Joe, you are not a dictator, and the United States form of government is not a dictatorship. One man doesn't make all the decisions. I know you want to be king, but it ain't happening. Okay. The funny part is how they're looking at it, all right, and the lies that are being told. This is what LaBolt said last night. He goes, default is not an option. It would tip the country into a recession and cost us millions of jobs. This is true. The president simply won't allow that to happen. Okay, all he needs is a pen and a piece of paper, write his name, make an X, because that's about how well Joe can spell at this point, and we're good. Continuing the quote, While the president has been open to throughout this process in a budget negotiation is an appropriations negotiation through the typical process. And so he's deployed his team to Capitol Hill to negotiate and find a reasonable bipartisan agreement that both parties in both chambers can support. In other words, do what he says and let the Republicans come back and say, we'll just bow down. Okay? Let's hope that doesn't happen. Quote, back to the quote. That's the way out of the crisis. We're not going to give up the economic gains of the last 2 years. 12.7 million jobs created. Bullshit. Okay? Those are jobs that came back after your poorly decided shutdown. Okay? 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Oh, those are in China, not here. If you notice, Joe signed again yesterday against, or vetoed yesterday against what Congress wants, to put tariffs on Chinese solar panels, and Congress is saying, no, we have to start charging China for doing this because it's taking away American manufacturing jobs, and Joe's like, no, we're going to keep doing stuff in China. Whose pocket are you in, Joe? Okay. Continuing the quote. A clean energy industry getting off the ground in this country, as I explained yesterday, how idiotic that is, okay. The president and his negotiators are going to protect those gains throughout this process. You can't protect gains that don't exist, okay? Those are made-up numbers that are not true at all, and you're trying to protect them. Joe's grasping at straws for anything he can try to spin, twist, whatever you want to call it, into some sort of success going into 2024 because he doesn't have anything that he can hang his hat on that's better now than it was in 2021 when he took office. Okay. Now I want you to understand this. What they're coming up, and this is again LeBolt saying, we need to take default off the table at the same time we can get, as the president's always been willing to do, a framework for a budget through the typical process off the ground. This is where they get into the gobbledygook and play on the stupidity of the American people. The debt ceiling has nothing to do with more spending. The debt ceiling is so we can pay off spending that has already been done, okay? Already was approved by Congress, the last Congress, okay, when Democrats run everything. And now we have to pay the bills. Yeah, I'll agree. We have to pay the bills. No question. Just like when you take out a car loan, take out a mortgage, you have to pay the bills. Don't get me started on student loans. Yes, those people have to pay the bills too. Okay. Joe wants to negotiate the budget process. The budget process is going forward. That's how much more money he wants to spend. He wants to separate the two. And Congress is saying, no, if you want to pay our current bills, we're not going to get into this situation again. Joe's going, no, give me unlimited spending, and then I'll decide with you how we're going to spend more money. Okay? No, this is what we're running into. And people are not understanding the difference between the two. Paying past bills and taking on future bills is different. Joe wants to split the two apart. The Republicans want to make it contingent. We'll talk about this is what we're not going to spend more so you can pay off the bills before. That's what needs to happen. All right. I know every time the Republicans cave, they may again. I just think it's different. I think the Republicans realize they've got Joe on the ropes. Joe is grasping at anything for 2024 because his approval keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, and he can't realize that it's because of his poor decisions, and this is just yet another one. But what are you going to do? I mean, here it is. It's mid-May. We run out of money June 1st. 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from today, we run out of money. Are you ready to lose your job? How long can you last if you lose your job? A personal SHDF situation. Do you have the money in the bank to pay your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, your electric bill, whatever it would be? Okay. Do you have enough food in the house to get you through until you get to another job? Recessions don't last usually a couple of weeks. I mean, you're talking 6 months, a year, two. Can you survive that? Okay. For nearly 3 years now, I've been talking about it, and God knows we go back 15 on YouTube, and there's been other people that are talking about it. That we get closer every day to this whole house of cards falling. This is exactly, we're at the end game, guys. I I hate to put it bluntly, but that's it. This is, if we make it another 15 months to another election, I'll give that a 50-50 shot. Okay. Not that anybody has a magic wand and they're going to come in and day one fix everything. It's going to take it's a decade at least to unwind the 2 years of Joe's disaster so far. All right. But can you make it through all this time? How are your bills set up? Are you still overextended? Are you still way in debt? Are you still living paycheck to paycheck? As a prepper, I get it if you've got a house payment still, okay? But if you've still got car payments or credit cards that aren't paid off or whatever it is, what have you been doing? Seriously, what have you been doing? Because that's number one, to protect yourself. It's there. If you're stuck in debt like that, guys, I hate to tell you this, you'll be moving to a 15-minute city, because when taxes go up, which the Democrats are trying to figure out how to raise taxes, okay, when the price of everything gets unaffordable, when gas gets ridiculous, when groceries get even worse, yada, 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 all that, electricity, anything like that gets to the point where it's unaffordable, and you're going, I can't pay my rent because my electric bill is $600 a month. I go, well, you can either live without electricity or you can lose your apartment or whatever it would be. Crunch time is here. I hate to tell you this. Personally, I think we need to default. We need to blow up the whole system and rebuild it. Okay? Not build back better, not the great reset, okay? But we need to fix what's wrong. We need to blow up the fact that government just goes, now we can spend whatever the hell we want. We'll pretend like we have a budget, but we'll come up with an emergency declaration for this, or we'll twist this, or whatever it is. We'll just print more money. I mean, seriously, what responsible person in the world ever goes, you know what, $34.4 trillion, that's not that much. We can do more. All right? It doesn't work that way. You've all seen the pencil cell on break the numbers down as to what if you did this in your household, okay? Take off about 6 zeros and figure it out, 8 zeros, and you go, gee, you know what, honey? We're $314,000 in debt. We make $129,000 a year. Let's go borrow more. Okay? No, it doesn't work that way. Plan on it happening as a, yes, we default in 2 weeks. Look through all your stuff. Sit down with pencil and paper and go, how long can we make it? If I lose my job, if the price of gas goes up $1 a gallon, food goes up another 20%, how long can I make it? Take a look at your preps and say, okay, what do I have? Might be time to a little bit of reprioritization. As much as everybody's like stocking beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, maybe it's time to make sure you got that financial cushion taken care of. Because again, was it something like 90% of the American public doesn't have $1,000 in the bank for emergencies, or $1,000 under the mattress for an emergency? $1,000 will get you what? I mean, if you live really frugally, if you've got no bills, $1,000 might last you 3 weeks. Okay, I've said for since the advent of the channel, 6 months worth of backup bills. I hope you got it because you're 2 weeks away from needing it. Pinball out.